As China's economic structure continues to optimize and evolve, it serves not just as a vast global marketplace, but also as a stage for cutting-edge innovation. Foreign firms are establishing R&D centers to seize new opportunities created by China's drive for a green transformation.
I think that we were right at the beginning of that growth. At the beginning of the year 90, the economy was just open, they were starting to build up, and we were putting already ourselves a foot in China in order to help the local economy to grow up.
China's latest raft of policies is acting as a fuel booster to accelerate its economic momentum, making the nation an increasingly attractive destination for high-quality investment.
So I can foresee that in the next coming years, Asia will continue to be, the major focus of Amundi globally.
Yeah.
I think China obviously is the key market.
Join us as we speak to Giampiero Frisio, the president of ABB's Electrification business, and Eddy Wong, CEO of Amundi Asia, discover the growth potential of China and the Asian economy. Only on BizTalk, only on CGTN.
So first of all, could you share some of the key milestones of ABB's electrification business in China?
Yeah, ABB in electrification in particular started in 1974 in a small office that was open in Hong Kong. And from there, they were imported all the products and all the solutions were coming, mainly from Europe, and they were introduced in the Chinese market. After that, the market evolved, the China economy started to grow up, and at the beginning of the year 90, in particular in 1994, they were opened the first factory in China. I can mention, for example, Beijing, where today, and we are celebrating the 30 years anniversary, or the factory in Xiamen, where we were producing low voltage breakers and low voltage apparatus. And those ones, from there, the business started to grow up and boom. And make a big boom. And at the beginning, they were producing products under licenses of ABB products and development in Europe. And at the beginning of the year 2000, they start to localize all the product. They start to have a supply chain. And so from there, from that factory, start to build up an ecosystem of suppliers that they were developing components in order to be assembled, and after that to be delivered to the market. At the beginning of the year 2000, we start also to build up research and development people, competencies. At the beginning, sending some expat from Europe, and now basically there are not anymore very few expatriates, and all the business is managed directly by the 15,000 people that we have in China. And by the way, 2,000 of them are research and development that are contributing in the general ecosystem of the innovation of ABB Electrification around the world.
Last year, ABB's low voltage installation materials company has been recognized as a foreign-funded R&D headquarters by Beijing's commercial bureaus. What does it mean to your business?
Yeah, it means a lot for us. In China we have 15,000 people, and 2,000 people of those are research and development people. So innovation is our DNA, is what we used to say we breathe every morning. So to be recognized and to take such recognition last year, it was a big thing for us.
You mentioned that you have sent experts from Europe to China in the past. So how do you value the Chinese talents right now?
What we are having is that we are having Chinese expats that are going in other parts of the world in order to teach, in order to be also to take responsibility around the world. They are going in Europe, they are going in Middle East, and that's the beauty, because we were developing competencies and now the competencies are going back from China to the rest of the world. That's the beauty to work for a global company like ABB. So you have a lot of opportunity.
China's actual utilization of the foreign investment so far this year has been decreasing. So do you think China is still an attractive investment destination?
China is the second biggest economy in the world, 1.5 billion people. It is, and it will be a big economy, and it will continue to grow. And for us, it's going to continue to be super important. Just to give an idea, in the last 10 years, we invested $1 billion So that's a demonstration that for us is important.
So, in the past few years, how has China's business environment evolved to support the multinational companies like ABB?
I think that the relationship with the government was great when we started to do business 30 years ago, and it was evolving. We always have had support from the Chinese government, from the local government and the central government. And we continue to have it. Just today we meet again at the Beijing government, just because we are seeing each other as partners. So we are growing with their help, and vice versa. Also the local community is growing with us. I mean, China was an economy that becoming a certain moment the manufacturer of the world. And here we were, I think that we were right at the beginning of that growth. At the beginning of the year 90, the economy was just open, they were starting to build up, and we were putting already ourselves a foot in China in order to help the local economy to grow up. I think that we grow up with the economy, we grow up with the Chinese economy, and in the meantime, also the local economy was growing up, building up a new supplier that became not just supplier of the local factory, but became supplier of all the factory that we have had in Europe, that we have had also in India. And still today, we are still suppliers that they are manufacturing products that are sending in Europe and in India.
China is trying to reach carbon peak by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060. So how has China's focus on sustainability and green technologies influenced ABB's electrification business here?
The biggest part of our business is to help the world to create more power with less emission. And this is China, that's why China is so important. Within 2028, 60% of the total renewable energy capacity of the world will be in China. That's why we are here, that's why we are helping the local company to grow up in this important for the future reduction of the CO2 emission, to help the renewable energy and the renewable company here in China. We are working with them and we are learning also from them.
So as a company, how can you make sure that on one hand, you're going to achieve the low carbon goals, but on the other hand, you're going to create business values? How do you balance?
Yeah, I think that in my personal view, this is going hand in hand. For example, if you try to save or try to reduce your CO2 emission, you try to optimize your processes, optimize your energy consumption, try to optimize your value chain. And this is contributing to reduce costs. And this is a direct impact on your balance sheet, but in the meantime, has a direct impact on reduction of the CO2 emission. The same is when we learn to save, and after that, we try to teach others how to save energy. With our solution, we develop solution in order to help our customers to reduce the CO2 emission. Same story, this is becoming a business. So just to give an idea, I personally believe that the environmental and the sustainability business is going to be a big business for the future. I think that this is going to replace a lot of jobs that today are used, for example, for the fossil fuel energy. And this business is going to grow up in a big way. Another big business where we are growing a lot is what we call the retrofit business. For example, you have installation in an hotel, in a hospital, in a production plants installed 30, 40 years ago. Now, after 30, 40 years, you can make it better, you can optimize, you can digitalize such installation from the electrical standpoint in order to reduce the energy consumption. And there you could say, I'm gonna throw it away and restart from scratch, or I'm doing something in order to minimize the impact also from the sustainability standpoint and just digitalize and just make a revamping and upgrade. And this is what we are doing in many also power plants in China.
Currently, what are some major challenges and opportunities that you're facing in China right now?
The data center business is growing in an amazing way. Why? Because there is the artificial intelligence, the Gen AI is growing in a big way, so many data centers are needed. And with our solution, with our innovation, we are contributing to deploying new data centers in most of the part of China. This market is growing at double digit and will continue to grow in double digit for the next 5 to 6 years, for sure.
Is there any emerging trends in China, like the advanced automation and the smart cities and even EVs will significantly impact your development in China?
I mean, for sure, if you think about who is growing the most in the world from the EV, the electrical vehicle cars and the e-mobility is China by default. And it's visible, and here we are testing new solutions where we can test here, develop here, and after that use around the world, because here is where the most of the market is growing faster than in any other countries in the world. And in fact, there are a lot of automotive industry that are innovating with new cars, and what we can contribute is to continue to innovate and learn for new charging infrastructure. We learn with the local player, and after that we learn, we can also export this kind of innovation to other parts of the world. Another important market where that China is pretty big and is very strong is the renewable energy. Just to give you an idea, the renewable energy is growing tremendously, and we need the renewable energy triple their capacity within 2030 if we want to have within 2060 the carbon neutrality. And just to give you an idea, in China within 2028 there will be the 60% of the total capacity installed for the full world renewable energy. So it means that here the biggest growth is in renewable energy. We are contributing a lot to with the local player, the local OEM, and the local machine builder to build up a new technology. And here again, we learn from the strategic standpoint, and after that we can export this technology also in other parts of the world.
Last but not least, how crucial is the Chinese market to ABB's electrification in the future?
It is, as I said, the second biggest market in the world, and it will continue to be super important for China. And we are committed to continue to invest. That's an example. Today we are also announcing the research and development laboratory in Beijing, more than 1,000 square meters, where we will have more research and development people, more equipment, just because China is important and we'll continue to invest in this market.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to you.
Thanks.
Here on BizTalk, we connect the dots, shedding light on the real stories behind the economic landscape. To better understand China's dynamism and the economies and rhythms of business, propelling new drivers of growth.
China.
We are right now.
Chinese market. China.
BizTalk, your window into China and the global economy. Only on BizTalk.
360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. BizTalk, only on CGTN. Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Eddy, thank you so much for joining us on the program. So what is the growth potential for the asset and wealth management business here on the Chinese mainland and Asia broadly?
So Asia is the second home of Amundi. As you know, Amundi is already the top 10 player already in globally, and we are the largest European asset manager. Asia is our second home. So we are putting a lot of resources and effort to grow Asia. In fact, in June this year, our group CEO has been very clearly shared with the world that Asia is the top driver for Amundi Group. So I can foresee that in the next coming years, Asia will continue to be, the major focus of Amundi globally.
Yeah.
So I think China obviously is the key market. We no doubt have a bit of a headwind, for sure. But when you see the Amundi presence in China, we have two entities in Beijing, one QDLP and one Wufi. And then we are also partnering up with two great Chinese partners, one with Agricultural Bank of China for an FMC, and then one with Bank of China for WMC. So this is a tremendous market that we are looking at. Only on the wealth management market, we are seeing 30 trillion renminbi that is available. And think about it, like at this stage of the market, for an average Chinese investor, they need wealth management products. They are really much looking for great solutions for them to get a slightly higher yield or higher return for the fixed deposit, but at the same time at the journey of slowly, gradually converting cash to wealth. So from a wealth management perspective, I think Amundi BOC can bring a lot of value to our investors in the sense of starting them, getting them into the door, in a sense of what does it mean by investment? What does it mean by risk appetite? What does it mean by slowly and gradually expanding the portfolio?
Yeah. So what do Chinese investors specifically want? Because Chinese investors are growing very sophisticated these days. When it comes to customization, what are they looking at? Fixed income, more equities, alternative investment? Where's the risk profile stand, would you say?
I think you name it all. I think Chinese investors is very home bias, a little bit like US investors. So I think I forgot exactly the number, but 80% or above, they are pretty much investing in local assets. So we have touched on in the fact that the wealth management products is pretty much local. I think these are all the lower risk products that they will continue to look for. At the same time, offshore opportunities is also something that I think, especially over the last 12 to 24 months, that especially for the higher net worth clients who already have a chunk of money or a great or decent portfolio on onshore, they are thinking about how can they better allocate their portfolio or their money by investing in a more diversified way. So from that perspective, I guess with the current interest rate differentials, globally versus onshore China, fixed income could pose a bit of a interest for many mainland investors. At the same time, alternative obviously is a big hit globally in the sense of with the 2 years ago very low interest rate globally. What are the alternatives? What are the great strategies? What are unique strategies that could help investors to bring additional returns? For Amundi, we have different kind of strategies, and one of them, just to name it, is to invest in gold. So think about it, gold is at record high. And if you are able to diversify some of your underlyings to gold as an example, not saying I'm promoting gold, but like this is something that could help the investors to ride through the journeys. It's full of uncertainties in the next 12 to 24 months. It's very hard for average investors to predict what's going on. So having a more diversified portfolios, I think would help them.
Yeah. So for Chinese investors, or for investors here in Asia, broadly speaking, you mentioned this uncertain market environment. Do you get the sense that they're more risk averse right now, or because of certain return profiles, they want to be more risk taking?
Depends. It depends. I think in general, I think one of the biggest phenomenon happening in Asia is chasing income. Chasing income in a sense of because maybe the capital market has been too volatile. And a lot of the investors nowadays are thinking, okay, if I can get 3, 5, 7, 9% pretty steady income on an annual basis, that's actually not bad. But obviously 3, 5, 7, 9 is a huge gap. So it depends on the risk appetite. It depends on how long that money could stay. It depends on how much of a liquidity they are looking for. So from an income perspective, yes, I think there are a number of solutions that investors nowadays can choose from. If they want an even higher return, say 10, 15, 20, then it must be other alternative strategies, which could be a bit of a, which would take a little bit of time in the case the structure is a bit of a lockdown structure.
Do you think fintech may potentially give Amundi an edge because your technology side of the business is interesting? The income, the revenue is increasing on that front, and you have this pretty special offering when it comes to technology as well. Talk to us more about that.
Sure. If you notice, our logo has updated in July. We used to call it Amundi Asset Management. Now we call it Amundi Investment Solutions. Why did we change these names? It's because we want to provide investment solutions on top of being an asset management company. So technology being one of them, which is critical. In Shanghai, we have set up our fintech company in January. Now we have about 20 people in the company. This is something that we believe with the goal for us of why we're setting up this fintech company is to help. There are so many financial institutions who are looking for an uplift of their operation models. They are looking for an uplift of technology, but they might not be exactly knowing what can be done. So I think for us, the key is to bring this technology, this know-how to the local financial institutions, letting them to review from front to back in a sense of saying, okay, maybe this can be enhanced. Maybe this we can add a bit of a module. Maybe this we can sort of provide a more comprehensive view to your portfolio managers so that you can have a more comprehensive evaluation when it comes to market volatility. So we call it Alto, which is the name of the system. It has been going very well globally, and we have secured the first client in China.
Oh, congratulations. First client for Alto in Asia is here in China.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about ESG investing. Where does the interest stand there? Because we were just talking about green finance, sustainability, the energy transition. What is the investor interest in terms of sustainability and ESG here in this part of the world? And how can we spur that interest a little bit more?
Sure. ESG is our founding pillar. We treat this very seriously. Globally, we have 70 plus people dedicated to do ESG research, advocacy, voting, so on and so forth. There are about 10% of them located in Asia. And here in China, we have 3 dedicated staffs doing the local research, which is kind of rare. So, and I think we know the difference between China and the rest of the world. So for us, ESG is something that you really need to have the specialties or specialists to really work on. It's not like a part-time job. So when you look at the Amundi strategies, you know, the ESG factors have already been factored into our overall investment framework. So when all the portfolio managers, specialists, research, thinking about our company, we will factor in these ESG solutions into them, so that when the investors is interested to make some money, to ride on the great economic development, but at the same time, having this kind of social, environmental, you know, governance-related factors, this is something that they could choose from.
Let me turn the conversation to geopolitics, Eddy, because you said Asia, this would be the second home for the company, and yet geopolitics has returned to this part of the world. How are you thinking about navigating the complexities of this landscape? So leveraging the growth opportunities, but also managing the complexities and the risks.
Well, we have been in Asia for over 50 years now. We have 2,300 colleagues in the region. Geopolitics is always here. It's always here. admit the fact that maybe the last few years is a little more challenging. From our perspective, we can handle it with absolutely no problem. I think from our perspective, we have to consider, from a political standpoint, how would that affect our investment? But at the end of the day, we are more focusing on the macro environment. We are more focusing on what are the companies that we are investing. We are more focusing on, in terms of that index, in terms of the sectors, is that really something that in the next 12 to 24 months or even longer, that could really bring value to our investors? So I would just say yes, it's getting a bit intense over the last period of time, but nonetheless, I think we'll just continue to act as what we are, focus on long term, having the ESG consideration, try to get the best long-term result for investors.
You mentioned long-term. Let me get your perspective on the Chinese economy, long-term, the Chinese consumer for the long-term. Short-term, you mentioned Chinese economy may be facing some headwinds, but what do you see as the structural forces driving China's economy in the long-term?
A couple of things. First of all, well, I think that the key for China in terms of the economy is let's not rush it. Let's not rush it in a sense. Honestly, although COVID seems a long time ago, it's just a year and a half. I think China has been recovering better than expected, at least from Amundi's perspective. So it's okay to, and this is a market cycle. Like when you have market cycle, it goes up and down. Right now, I think the key would be to hang on to it, to making sure that the consumption sector, the property sectors could be in the short term having a bit of pressure. But look at the new energy sector that we have just talked about. China is way ahead when it compares to other nations in terms of solar panels, in terms of EVs, in terms of batteries. I am absolutely confident that we can find good investment opportunities in China. Consumption could be a factor, but it will not be end of the world. So I think, again, going back to your question, it's long term. You just need to focus on what are the things that for that particular sector, it could work well, and then underweight the rest.
Also on the future, so as the CEO of Asia for Amundi, your vision for the company 5 years out is what?
Be a trusted partner, have a reputable brand. We want to offer solutions that the client wants, not only now, but maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. I think these are be a responsible company that would not only aiming to make profit, but at the same time taking the right responsibility to take care of the world.
Eddy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Michael.